Yes, sir.
Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, man. Do you have a driver's license?
This is all the identification I have on me. I had one once upon a time.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. That's all I have on me right now. Okay?
Okay.
What do you need from me? I gave you everything you need. I've identified myself. You told me why you pulled me over. If you're going to give me a ticket, please just do that.
Okay. I'm trying to explain to you if you let me finish. I'm only asking because you are required to be on the roadway with a driver's license.
I hear what you're saying.
So I was only asking if you had one.
You said required. Accessible. Did I hurt somebody? Did I break the law?
Did you break the law?
Did I break the law?
Driving without...
Is that the law or is that the code?
That is a traffic code.
Code.
Is a law.
Codes are not laws.
Codes are laws.
Okay.
You can go to jail for violating traffic code.
Sir, whatever you want to do, please just write your ticket so I can go. I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay.
I've identified myself. You told me what the problem is. Okay. Whatever you need to do, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. You can see here in the browser I have 𝐇𝐎𝐏𝐿 typed in. And we're going to click on the web page here. Then we're going to go over here to the About Us section. We're going to click there. Then we're going to go over here to Publications. Then here, we're going to click License Plate. Then we're going to go to the History of Texas License Plates. All right, here's page 1. Let's go ahead and let's check this out. Okay, this is the 80th anniversary. All right, and this was dated 1999. All right. All right, let's go right here to 4. Let's zoom in a little bit so make sure everybody can see this. All right. One of the first functions of the Texas Department of Transportation, TxDOT, was to administer a statewide vehicle registration program. That function began in 1917, just months after state lawmakers had created what was then known as the Highway Department. The money collected from registration fees started the Texas Highway User Fee concept, whereby vehicles using the roads paid for the roads. The resulting fund was to be used for building state roads to facilitate both public and commercial motor vehicle travel. For what? Public and commercial motor vehicle travel. What it did not say there, y'all. It didn't say private travel. Okay? Public and commercial. Specifically. In 1997, TxDOT and the Vehicle Titles and Registration Division, VTR, observed their 80th anniversary. We are proud to have played such a responsible role in the development of one of the nation's premier transportation agencies. The responsibility and procedures we use to do our business have changed dramatically during the past 8 decades. But our commitment to customer service remains a cornerstone of our operation. Today, the Vehicle Titles and Registration Division registers more than 15 million vehicles annually, a marked increase from the 194,720 vehicles that were registered in 1917. Most of the transactions are processed through 254 county tax assessor collectors, who have been our statutory agents and are key partners in the vehicle title and registration business for almost all of the past 80 years. The titling and registering process now collects $3 billion. Now this is at that time. $3 billion in revenue annually. The counties have a direct link to our office using newly implemented $40 million registration and title system, which allows for point of sale data entry. The result is an updated registration record within 48 hours of a transaction. This automation system also enables the department to issue motor vehicle title within 5 days of receiving the application. Okay. Now you will notice I will emphasize certain words that I want you to pay attention to. There are other strong partnerships that have developed through the course of our 80-year existence. Our department is a very active member of the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, a non-profit educational organization that is responsible for coordinating many of the international standards that exist in our business today. We work closely with Texas Department of Public Safety and other law enforcement agencies to ensure optimum license plate legibility. We also work with vehicle dealer associations and other agencies related to industries and foreign governments. Our mission at all levels is to provide accurate, efficient, and effective vehicle registration and title services. This book is a comprehensive look at our most noticeable product. What is that? License plates. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice, another one of our close partners, has produced most of our license plates and registrations indica. Did I say that right? During the past 80 years, license plates continue to serve the same primary purpose in Texas. What is that purpose? To identify motor vehicles for law enforcement purposes. What is the purpose of a license plate? To identify motor vehicles for law enforcement purposes. But their appearance has changed greatly over the years. These days, you will find specialty plates that are personalized, have unique designs, are used to raise funds for causes as specified by legislation, and identify various organizations. With the wide variety of designs and categories, collecting license plates has become a hobby for many. We hope you enjoy this book as a useful and historical publication. And this is Jerry L. Dyke, which is the director of the Vehicle Title Registration Division at this time. Now, I want y'all to notice the key understanding of the intention of the license plate. The license plate is to do what? What did they say it was to do? To identify motor vehicles for law enforcement purposes. Law enforcement purposes. I want y'all to know they're trying to enforce something, right? Law. Is it the law? Is it codes? Is it statutes? Is it constitution? What is the law? All right. Well, let's check out this video.
111, 110. You training to be a street cop?
Ahead, it's Sunday. I was getting a message from a guy who had previously attended my training, my 2-day course, and he had some questions regarding questioning on a motor vehicle stop. And I'm going to try to instead of just speaking to him and giving him the answers, I'm going to jump on here and make a video for you guys if you're having trouble with the same thing. So if you're having trouble on motor vehicle stops, you don't have the questions to ask, I advise you to take my 2-day course. We'll really go through that thorough and in detail. And for the guys who have taken it and for kind of forgotten a little bit about what it was that I was explaining, basically this is the deal. When we talk about setting up and observing motor vehicles and looking for those right cars, looking for criminal motor vehicles, be able to spot them on the highway and pick them out. Remember, RAS begins, and that's reasonable articulable suspicion, or for the guys from out of state, that's reasonable suspicion. In New Jersey, they tacked on articulable. I don't know why, but it begins when you spot that motor vehicle, and that motor vehicle spots you, because things are going to start to happen at that time where it's abnormal, it's different than what every other vehicle is going through on the road. You'll see that. I'm not going to go to all that in this video. And you'll follow that car, you'll capture those moments, and I want you in your mind to just be like a recorder for when you get to your report, and I'll really understand what's going on. I want you to be able to emphasize, hey, when I saw this car, they were doing 50 in a 50 in the speed limit. When they spotted me and I made eye contact with the driver, his head snapped. They jammed the brakes, pulled it back to 35 in a 50, so much so that other cars were going around them. Then they exited off into a gas station. Upon stopping the car, there was I asked them what they were doing here, and they said that they were getting gas. However, there was a full tank of gas in the car, or 3/4 to a full tank of gas in the car, and it doesn't seem to make sense. So it's all those things that don't make sense. And the questions really are, remember, in New Jersey and pretty much every other state under Pennsylvania versus Mims, which was a United States Supreme Court case that allowed an officer to ask a driver out of a car and always take them off to the side of the highway, or into a safe zone where you're not going to get hurt. And you got to begin asking those pressing questions. So one of the questions was he didn't feel like he had enough RAS to ask for consent to search. In New Jersey, you need reasonable suspicion to ask for consent to search. I know it's not that way in every other state, but in New Jersey, we need that. And a lot of times what I find is guys are just missing the reasonable suspicion. They're not really conscious to what they're experiencing and seeing. They just think that something's wrong. They know something's up. They just can't figure out what it is. So don't get stumped on it. I shouldn't be chewing gum while I'm doing this. So don't be stumped on this. Here are some questions you can ask. You have somebody step out of a car after all these things have happened. Remember, you got to separate the passengers from the driver. But there's a lot of other stuff that will lead you to the questions that you're asking. Is there one key in the ignition? There's so many variables and factors. You just got to be conscious to what's happening. You got to start to teach yourself and train yourself to understand what's going on. Is there a passenger who will not make eye contact with you and has a rapid, deep, rapid rising and falling of their chest, and they're staring at their phone and scrolling through Facebook the whole time? I mean, is that normal behavior on a motor vehicle stop for a passenger to just be in their friggin' phone or ignoring you or not making eye contact with you or acting weird in some way? You have to just understand what's happening and ask questions pertaining to the things that you were experiencing. So, some questions that are simple ones to ask where you could start out. Where are you guys coming from? Where are you headed to? But be specific with these questions. You don't want to just get general answers. Hey, where are you guys coming from today? Oh, Connecticut. Well, where in Connecticut were you? What were you doing there? How long was your stay? Who were you with? Were you with this person? Where are you guys headed to now? And again, the same questions. Why are you going there? What's your business there? These questions will start to, really, really open up what's going on here. What are you going to do? You want to keep those people separate. You're going to ask the same questions to the passengers in the car. Make sure the stories match. Remember, any good interdictionist or any good police officer who can go out, anybody who has a story, even if it's put together real well and they've rehearsed it, I guarantee you the best guys I've seen on motor vehicle stops are the ones that continue to ask questions and beat people's stories up. And eventually they unravel and you'll start to get to the truth. That's just the bottom line. So those are some good questions to start with. And you just got to want to broaden it from there. You're allowed to ask those questions on a motor vehicle stop. All right, so hopefully this gives you guys some foundation to grow and build from that. Hopefully that answered some questions. But remember, if you're not comfortable having people step out of a car and off to the side of the highway and begin to asking these questions, this is not going to work for you. So you need to get yourself comfortable with asking that question. A lot of times I would see guys who took my 2-day training course that I worked with, I'd come back and they're like, hey, I'll get to you 1 second, Wangus. I would see them on a motor vehicle stop and they'd be asking the questions with two people in the car. Why are you doing that? Hey, come over here, man. What are you doing? Well, I'm asking them the questions you told me to ask them. But why are you... They're in earshot of each other. They can hear their answers. The idea is to separate them and do an interview with each one to make sure that the stories match up. I can't tell how many people's stories I beat up just on just separating them and asking the same questions. They didn't know what the hell they were talking about. The stories didn't match. Or they didn't know who each other were. Or they did and were lying about who the other person was. This is your RAS. This is going to be your asking for consent to search. Okay? And it says, Wang Gus, do you need RAS to ask if there's anything illegal or should I know that in the car? Well, you're allowed to ask that question after you've... So here's the technical answer, okay? Here's your technical New Jersey case law answer on that one. You can ask that once you pose some regular standard questions, and then you can... Those are designed to dispel or confirm any suspicion of criminal activity, and then you can broaden your questions. So you have to start with easy questions, and you could expand. But technically, you're not going to need RAS. I guess it's kind of RAS. You just need to start with smaller questions. Where are you guys coming from? These are accepted questions that you can ask somebody on a motor vehicle stop. Where are you coming from? Where are you headed to? Who's in the car with you? And if the answers start not making sense and the person in the car doesn't have a matching story, then you can go back to them and say, hey, do you have anything illegal in the car? Now, that's New Jersey. Other states, I'm not sure what your rules are. All right, so hopefully that answers your question.
All right, so now you see I have 28 CFR Part 29 pulled up. And this is the electronic code of federal regulations. So this federal regulations shows how that statute that we just read is to be enforced and interpreted. And this is Title 28, which is judicial administration. Okay, judicial administration. All right. Chapter 1, Department of Justice, Part 23, Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Act regulations. Now, what you'll see in here, we have these different subsections, right? We have purpose, definition, administration by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. We have the election to participate by states. We have notification of law enforcement officials, limited participation by states and localities permitted. We have withdrawal from the program by the states. We have motor vehicle owner participation. Okay. Then we have motor vehicles for hire. All right. Owner withdrawal from the program, sales of other transfers of enrolled vehicles, specified conditions under which stops may be authorized. And then we have no new conditions without consent. All right, everything's about consent. So opting into this system, you already give them consent to pull you over. So I know a lot of us be wondering why these, folks be harassing us so much over these minute, victimless moving violations. Well, you've signed up for this, whether you realize it or not. You have contracted to give up your rights and accept these privileges. All right, so let's just go ahead and look at this real quick. I'm not going to try to keep you too long. We have the purpose. The purpose of this part is to implement the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Act, which requires the Attorney General to develop, in cooperation with the states, a national voluntary motor vehicle theft prevention program. The program will be implemented by states and localities at their sole option. Under this program, individual motor vehicle owners voluntarily sign a consent form in which the owner indicates that the identified vehicle is not normally operated under certain specified conditions and agrees to display a program decal or license plate on the vehicle and to permit law enforcement officers in any jurisdiction to stop the vehicle if it is being operated under specified conditions and takes reasonable steps to determine whether the vehicle is being operated by or with the permission of the owner. So we're giving them permission to harass us, pull us over, and get in our business. So you see why in that previous video that officer had that mindset, right? He already has a mindset that anybody on the road basically may be committing a crime. So you're already guilty in his eyes, or in their eyes, or their view, or in their system. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next part of this. Definitions. You see the three words that are defined here. Okay, let's go on next. The administration by the Bureau. Okay, election to participate. So we've already went over most of this. All right, now I'm going to get straight to the withdrawal of the program. Okay, let's look at this first. Motor vehicle owner participation. All right, let's just dwell this in our heads for a second. In order to participate in this program, the owner of a motor vehicle must sign a program consent form and register with a participating state or locality. If the vehicle is registered to more than one person, both owners must sign the consent form. By enrolling in this federal program, the owners of the motor vehicle states that the vehicle is not normally operated under specified conditions and agrees to display a program decal or devices on the owner's vehicle. Permit law enforcement officials in any state or locality to stop the motor vehicle if the vehicle is being operated under specified conditions and take reasonable steps to determine whether the vehicle is being operated by or with the permission of the owner. So basically you could just be pulled over and they could just make sure that, hey, does this car belong to you? Right? So they're automatically thinking that you've committed a crime or you're not the owner of the car. What type of mess is that? That's insane. Expressly advise any borrower of the vehicle of the existence of this agreement and that such user will be subject to being stopped by law enforcement officials if the vehicle is being operated under specified conditions. They keep saying specified conditions, so we're going to get to that as well. Even if the officials have no other basis for believing the vehicle is being operated unlawfully. See, we're voluntarily giving up our rights to privacy, y'all, with consent. Comply with any other regulations or guidelines governing participants in this program. So this is where your driver's license coming in, your moving violations. This is how they get you. They're talking about vehicles for hire. All right. When you're operating commerce, if you're not for hire, then you're traveling private. Okay. You're not engaged in any business, but you're registering your vehicles and signing up for driver's license like you are. All right. The owner withdraw from the program. And then we don't even know that we can withdraw from this program. We think that we have to be participants in all of this, but there's other ways that we can register a vehicle, quote unquote. You don't have to always register just with the state. An owner may withdraw from the program at any time by completely removing the program decal and changing the license plate if necessary. The owner is also encouraged to notify participating agencies in writing of such withdrawal. So there's a form that you can withdraw here in Texas with the DMV if you want to unregister your vehicle. Now, I also have put together a course to show you how I have done these certain things. And if you would be interested in that course, there will be a link in this description of this video for your viewing pleasure. Now, outside of that, let me show you a little sneak peek of what you have possibilities you can do. All right. So what I want you to understand and get out of this is this. Sometimes we think things that are going on or things that are established is the only option and route we have about doing things. We just don't really know our options, right? Everybody has the right, to do things privately. You don't have to put all your business into the public. All right, and then the proof of that is this. We're just going to look up some of their codes and statutes and see what they really say. So what you see right here is 34 U.S.C. Code subsection 12611. This is the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are aware that, vehicles have these VIN numbers, and these VIN numbers help you identify your vehicle, especially in the case that it was stolen or, anything of that nature. So with that VIN number, it gets registered in their system. So they claim for, there's reasons for, someone steals your car, we can help you, police enforcement. But what you're really doing is you're signing up, you're contracting with these entities, allowing them to violate your rights. Okay? Everything is through consent, and they use contracts for this consent. So let's just check this out. 34 U.S.C. Code subsection 12611, Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program. In general, no later than 180 days after September 13th, 1994, the Attorney General shall develop, in cooperation with the states, a national voluntary motor vehicle theft prevention program. In this section referred to as the program under which 1. The owner of a motor vehicle may voluntarily sign a consent form with participating state or locality in which the motor vehicle owner A. states that the vehicle is not normally operated under certain specified conditions, and B. agrees to display program decals or devices on the owner's vehicle, and 2. permit law enforcement officials in any state to stop the motor vehicle and take reasonable steps to determine whether the vehicle is being operated by or with permission of the owner. If the vehicle is being operated under specified conditions and participating states and localities authorize law enforcement officials in the state or locality to stop motor vehicles displaying program decals or devices under specified conditions and take reasonable steps to determine whether the vehicle is being operated by or with permission of the owner. B. Uniform decal or device signs. In general, the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program developed pursuant to this section shall include a uniform design or designs for decals or other devices to be displayed by motor vehicles participating in the program. Then they give you the type of designs. The uniform design shall be highway visible and explicitly state that the motor vehicle to which it is affixed may be stopped under the specified conditions without additional grounds for establishing a reasonable suspicion that the vehicle is being operated unlawfully. Okay, so we are consenting to them to violate our rights. C. Voluntary consent form. The voluntary consent form used to enroll in the program shall shall clearly state the participation clearly state that the participation in the program is voluntary. Do you remember seeing anything voluntary on your applications for registration of your vehicles or applying for a license with the state you in? Clearly explain the participation in the program means that if the participating vehicle is being operated under specified conditions, law enforcement officials may stop the vehicle and take reasonable steps to determine whether it is being operated by or with consent of the owner, even if the law enforcement officials have no other basis for believing that the vehicle is being operated unlawfully. Y'all hear this? So you see why the gentleman on the previous video was talking the way he talking as an officer trainer, right? He's training them to violate your rights because we don't know who we are and we don't know our rights. So anyone who doesn't know his rights doesn't have any. And they're getting away with this through our consent. Okay? Now, I'm going to stop reading there and show you another section. This is just the code of section, 34 USC. Now, we're going to go and look at the CFR to see how this stuff is supposed to be interpreted or regulated. All right. So, what we have here is this little cards that I created to have made to issue or hand over to any officers that I might come across in traffic. Just to keep things to a minimum and not have to engage with them too much, right? So first thing they typically ask for is, your identification after you greet them. And then they just hand them the ID, which typically in my situation is always a passport now, and this card. Now what you'll see on here is a QR code, and that QR code is linked to a Google Drive document where I have a copy of a form or a document called an injunction. And shout out to those before me that have been doing these types of things and speaking on these types of things, such as your Jonah Bays and your Averys of the 0%, your Eons and all those people of that nature. Big respects to them. And with this injunction, I believe Charlie Sprinkle is what is based on. This gentleman back in, I think it was the 80s, early 80s, 70s, where he was the first one to really implement this, and it was against the state of California. And at the time, Governor Ronald Reagan was the governor, and they experienced just how powerful that it was. I suggest you go check out the video. There's videos all over YouTube on Charlie Sprinkle, and just hear from his voice on what occurred. But that's what you'll see in here. A document is based on that. And let's keep on moving. Now, with the information that's on this card, it's good evening, officer. Am I free or am I being detained? All right. So we're starting off by greeting them, asking them a question, right? The person in the situation asking all the questions tends to be the one that is in authority, right? So we're off the top. We're just handing them the identification, right? We're complying, handing them a passport. Now, without the passport having an address on it, it doesn't give them minimum contact jurisdiction, so that's going to be hard for them to proceed. So typically they'll try to ask you for something such as your driver's license, right? Do you have one? Have you ever had one? Well, you're not obligated to answer these questions. You hand them what you do have, and you just shut the fuck up, right? If I'm being detained, please provide me your reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime is being committed. So that is a direct relationship to their protocol and procedure. So that lets them know exactly what this situation is about. What are we doing? We're leveling the playing field. That we know what they're on, right? Now, to remove any presumptions. Presumptions is very big, especially in the court system, because everything moves off presumption. They're presuming that you are something that you're not, and you have to remove all presumptions. All right? I am traveling privately, and I'm not engaged in any commercial activity. I don't need a driver's license or registration to exercise my right to travel. I am not operating a motor vehicle as defined by federal law, nor am I a driver, also defined by federal law. I am simply exercising my constitutional right to travel. And I do not consent to any searches. Okay? A vehicle is defined by federal law as something used for commerce, transporting goods, or people for hire. So if you are, engaged in commerce, you need to have a driver's license. All right? But we're traveling privately. All right? We've registered with the DOT to be a private driver, and that's what that DOT number right there supports. But it's not us personally, but we're registered using our trust. The trust is a business, all right? But that business is not engaged in commerce. We're a private business, all right? So a driver is someone operating a motor vehicle for compensation. All right, we're not driving no vehicle from a compensation with the trust. In all respect, officer, if you decide to continue to obstruct my right to travel without any evidence that an actual crime has been committed, you agree that you and the corporation you are employed with have conspired to deprive me of my constitutional right, the same constitution that you are under oath to uphold, and you consent to be charged with willful negligence for your incompetence in your corporate and personal capacity. A minimum fee of $2,000 USD a minute, plus any fees for any automobile, vessel search, body clothing search, handcuffing, being tied or otherwise restricted, or physically abused in your personal and professional capacity under the color of law, beginning the very moment my travel stopped. All right? I also choose to invoke my Fifth Amendment right to what? Shut the fuck up. All right? Right to remain silent and will not answer any questions. Okay? Am I free or am I being detained? Now, hopefully, he will come to his conclusions, or she will come to their conclusions like, you know what? This is just not really worth my time, right? Let me find someone else that's going to be easier for me to charge. Because at the end of the day, this is commerce, and they're just trying to charge you with a fee, right? So this is something I have created for myself, or should I say for the trust, to use while, traveling privately. And you see the registered mail number, it's real. It's registered, so you see it here. All right. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that you can be public or you can be private. And then there's ways to separate yourself, right? For instance, setting up a trust is what we've always recommended, to separate yourself, right? Through a trust, you can be private, all right? With that trust, you can also register it with the government or the IRS or anything you need. That way you can operate through the trust. And for example, we have right here pulled up the Office of Registration for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And I'm not going to get into this right now, but I have a course that I have with all this information included in it. I'm just trying to keep this video short just to show you what's possible. So what I'm going to pull up now is the actual registration, or my actual registration that I have registered with using my trust. And as you can see here, there's, key information that's required, just basic, nothing too invasive. All right, so it can still give you privacy, and you can be issued a US dot number. All right, and with that number, there's your registration. You can put that number on your vehicle that's going to be traveling privately. Yes, not engaged in commerce. So for those that want to be private, this is an alternate route that you can take. Now, those that are actually operating in commerce, you need to make sure that you are licensed to drive if you're operating in commerce and you're abiding by the rules and regulations of the commercial laws. Outside of that, if this is something you'll be interested in learning how to be able to drive it privately, well, go ahead and tap the link in the description and you can get access to my course. Until then, I appreciate you again. Hope you enjoyed this content. Peace and prosperity.
Can a police officer well, let me try this another way. If I'm walking down the street and a police officer wants to stop and talk to me, can he just stop and talk to me for any reason?
Senator, you can seek your consent to stop and talk to you.
What if I don't consent?
If you don't consent, then the officer needs to have a reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime has been committed, will be committed, and be able to articulate that to justify the stop.
Okay. Then how come police officers can set up a roadblock and stop 500 people to see if they have liability insurance?
My understanding is that the Supreme Court has ruled that those types of stops, when generally applied, are conducive to good order and policing.
Why? They're still stops, aren't they?
Senator, in my 8.5 years as a prosecutor, I've not had to litigate the adequacy.
I know. I'm just asking you what you think. I mean, isn't that pretty intrusive? What if I'm in a hurry to pick up my kid from school and I don't have time to wait for 10 minutes? And I don't want to wait anyway. Why? If a cop can't just stop me on the street, why can they stop me and check my insurance?
Senator, as far as my personal belief, I haven't encountered that.
I'm just asking you legally, why can they do that?
Again, I haven't encountered that issue, so I don't have the research on that, Senator.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.